Dexter Morgan is an emotionless person. He doesn't laugh, he doesn't cry, he is unreactive to most things in life. So how was Michael c.hall still able to make such a boring character actually fun to watch? Well, as someone that's reviewed hundreds of actors, today let's answer this question by exposing the acting secrets behind Dexter. Imagine a producer pitches you an idea where the main character of the show is totally emotionless. The producer is very excited for some jolly reason, but he keeps mentioning how the character for 99% of the time will be completely expressionless, have a completely monotone way of speaking.
People fake a lot of human interactions, but I feel like I fake them all.
Automatically, this should wave red flags for anyone in the TV industry. Think about all these other hit shows like Breaking Bad, where we are so drawn in by the main character's feelings, their reactions. Seeing how physically angry a bald man gets at his wife for dismissing him.
I am the danger.
Dismissing the empire he's building, it instantly allows us to connect with him, resonate with him, because we see how he's feeling. Similarly, if you've seen the show You with Joe Goldberg, one of the reasons it's so successful is because Penn Badgley plays the serial killer with so much expression. Every cry, every yell adds further depth to this character, and it once again makes it so easy for us to connect with him, resonate with him. But here's why Dexter is such a different story. Since he is a character that's been traumatized at such a young age, he shut off most of his expression. We no longer see when he's hurt or he's stressed, and that should make it a lot less of a compelling performance. I mean, how do we get intrigued by someone that rarely shows anything on their face? Dexter is going through a lot in this specific scene. He goes to hug his wife. He notices he's a little off, so she pokes and tries to gain a little bit more information from him and get him to open up. And here, when a typical character would usually break down, fall into her arms, and tell her what's going on, Dexter instead does this.
I've been through a lot lately.
Reverting to that stone cold face in real time to ensure he doesn't actually show his real feelings. But here's where things get scary. The fact he barely reacted here could have actually made him a very boring character. Because yesterday I spoke with my acting teacher who told me there's a very thin line between emotionless and boring. And that is something none of you have ever thought about. I want you to notice this person at the bottom staring out very blankly. It's a very boring expression, right? So then tell me what separates this face from Dexter at the very top. Why can we identify emotion in this top image when these faces basically look the same? Well, for my smarty pants, I'm sure you guys can see that there is this subtle acting in the eyebrows. The way they furrow down, you can tell there's some internal emotion going on. But here's the dangerous part. When acting is this subtle, it can be very easy for the actor like Michael c.hall to just miss the mark, miss that slight expression. And if he ends up missing even just a slight eyebrow furrow, he can very quickly end up looking like that blank person, which would instantly transform him into a very boring character. And that is the real reason why Dexter could have been very boring. His subtle body language is extremely close to a boring, blank body language. But, ladies and gentlemen, Michael c.hall is a top level actor. He's acted in theater for 10 years before he ever touched Dexter. He had 10 different roles over this time span, including roles in Macbeth, Henry V, and that rigorous theater training truly allows these actors to control every part of their body, their face. And when you get to that level of control, then you start being able to pull off these very insane results. But now, let me actually show you the really fascinating way actors like Michael c.hall pull off this subtle acting. And I'll teach you this by letting you read one of the notes I took from my last acting class. My teacher was breaking down to me how Michael was able to bring life into such a reserved character, and I remember I quickly wrote his exact words on this paper, literally in the messiest handwriting. I wrote, "For a reserved character to be interesting, you must have a ton of emotion within." Basically what that means is the actor is building up all of that emotion inside of his head, inside of his body. And then the trick is to do your best to actually keep it in, keep it reserved. And you'll notice naturally little glimpses of it are what will come out. And that's what creates those minute, subtle movements throughout the face. Here, Dexter arrives at a birthday party, showing up with a ton of emotional baggage, because a few minutes earlier in the same episode, Lumen had just left him for good. Now, keeping that in mind, as you all know, Dexter likes to bottle in all of his emotions. So when his daughter Aster comes to sit with him and ask about what happened,
Where is she?
I want you to notice that eventual jolting in his body or the repeated blinking a few seconds later. These are all things that reveal to us that he's feeling hurt, even as an emotionless character. He's very beautifully let us see his feelings through these little tricks. And I chose this specific scene because sitting right beside him is someone that does the exact opposite. Notice her eyes feel completely blank. She's saying her lines, but it feels rehearsed. And one of the reasons behind that is I don't see any of the subtleties that reveal anything deeper. And this is exactly what Dexter Morgan could have become. Imagine if Michael c.hall first got this role and he read the description, noted, since Dexter is completely emotionless, let me purposely minimize my expressions, he would very much end up like this. That blank face we see on Aster is because when she's acting, she isn't feeling anything inside, leading to a much higher internal emotion from Dexter versus Aster. I also want to point out, a character like Dexter might actually be a lot more interesting to some of you when compared to Joe Goldberg or any of your favorite expressionate character, and the reason behind that is because since Dexter is very subtle with his movements, a lot of people like looking into those tiny details, really observing those close-up shots. The reactions all of a sudden turn into this detective work where you get to inspect his face and give your own interpretation to how he might actually be feeling. And that's a lot more of an engaging activity compared to a character who very openly shows exactly what they're feeling. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know this entire video it's a very tricky concept, so let me summarize it in one beautiful sentence. Dexter should have been boring because he doesn't outwardly show emotions like most characters. However, the reason he still remained interesting is because we were able to see these beautiful, tiny little details within Dexter that were brought out thanks to Michael c.hall's internal emotion. If you guys thought this acting analysis was good, make sure you click this playlist filled with more acting reviews, and of course make sure you subscribe so I can see you guys next week. Deuces!